He can wear mine if he wants. Okay, Hank. Now this is the only hard part. You just gotta turn around and just land your butt there if you can. Squeeze in anything. There's your foot right, Henry. If you feel me pushing on it really hard, you should let go. I prefer to do it. That's yours.
He doesn't want to take that.
How much you weigh, Hank? I think we got a pretty good chance of getting off the water. And they all lie. And as we're going, but you might have to hold it, little Hank, okay?
He said he didn't.
We're gonna go bust us some ducks.
Got a shotgun take along?
We'll go fly up over Cub Lake and see if there's any property that he still owns up there.
If there's anything alive, I'm sure.
You want to rest anyway.
Why not?
Wrong. Raising the landing gear. I did it.
Yeah.
You may not come back?
Flight helmet. You'll be all right, Bill.
Don't hurt yourself. My carpets are getting done too.
Okay, no, I won't be doing them anyway. Come flying by so you can take a movie if you guys want to.
Lay it back. Yeah, you're back.
Nicky liked it.
Monday I'll probably order one.
Well, how was it, Henry?
Henry, how was it?
Can't hear.
Here you go, Hank.
So Henry, how was it?
Great.
Should we get one?
Yeah. I think we should. No, let's shove it back in here to make it a little level. Hold on, Hank. There we go. Put that leg over top of here, Hank.
Cane?
Yeah, I don't have it yet. Let me go get your cane. There you go.
That's called service.
There you go, Hank. You bet. Good.
Here, Jim, stand here for 7 minutes. There you go, Henry.
Did you record that, Curt?
Yeah. There you go. Good shot.
Good shot.
All right. All right. Hope you enjoyed that, Hank. I did. I did. Anyway, there's that one. So we're just talking about flying and stuff. I should have let you fly the other day, but it's pretty fun though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that trip. This swim trip.
Had good weather for it. The next day it was cold and windy. But Hank, when did you start flying?
Well, what year?
Yeah, I mean, like how old were you?
And when I was going to high school, this friend of mine, his dad had owned an airplane, and I used to go to the airport and go around and did a little. He took me up, gave me a few lessons. I started.
So like you're like 16 or something?
That's why I got. I was about 18 years old then.
Huh.
But that's why I got interested in flying and wanted to fly. I applied for Uncle Sam's Air Force, but at that time the restrictions were so pretty bad, and I didn't have the college, just getting out of high school.
Well, was that close to World War II draft time?
Well, yeah, it was draft time. He was going to draft time, so and I wanted to enlist instead of being drafted, so I could try to get into flying. And I was raised on a dairy farm, and one of my jobs was washing bottles. And in those days we had glass bottles.
Yeah.
And we had a big barrel sitting out behind the creamery that any bottles that had we couldn't clean. So people would put gas in and everything else, so we couldn't. Well, just throw them in that barrel. Well, one day I forgot to turn my head quick enough, and I got a piece of glass in one eye. So I lost the vision, but it was coming back. The vision was coming back. Because when I went down and took my physical, they turned me down.
Oh.
Because of that eye, they said it wasn't. It had to be perfect, they said.
Yeah. Well, did you end up in the Air Force or the Army, or?
I was trying to get in with. I heard then this. I got words. It was the Canadian Air Force. The Canadians were recruiting. So there's a couple of buddies of mine and myself. We went up to Windsor, Ontario, just across from Detroit, and went over and took the test and applied for to get in and so forth. And well, the guy said, "We'll come back tomorrow and we'll give you the results of what the score is. So I went back and they said, well, you're as a scar, but it's tell her it is improving. So that's no problem. That you've got two choices. You can go out to Edmonton, go to college, get your 2-year college degree, and then you'll be eligible for any promotion in the Air Force if you make the grade in the Air Force. Or you could just go in now and without going to college and take the chances of not being able to promote or whatnot. I was gambling on time anyway and things, so I figured it was a chance to get my education that I wanted to get, and so I did. I ended up in Edmonton, and about less than a year's time, and about 8 months, they ran us through a 2-year college course, and into flight training and so forth. So I took my basic training at Aviation and went down to there's 2 or 3 bases that were there. I think one of them was Red Deer and Calgary. Anyway, I was getting to my graduation. I was up there at the time of the war. In fact, Pearl Harbor Day, I was out on a solo flight and been out for an hour or so, and came back and there was nobody on the flight line. And I thought, well, that's unusual. There's always somebody on the flight line. Most of the ends right where to park and so forth. It wasn't a soul. I pulled up in front of the hangar and got out, and I went in, and they were all in the hangar listening to the radio.
Oh, yeah.
Pearl Harbor. So that's where I was when that happened. So in high school, I had a coach that was an old Pop Shearer. I have to give a lot of credit to him, to my education of life through him. He was a wonderful person. I always respected a lot of his thoughts and ideas and so forth. But he was a retired naval officer. And when the war broke out, well, they called him back into service. And he was pretty high up in Washington. And we were corresponding and so forth. He wrote me and said, Hank, if you want to transfer back, just sit tight. We're in the process of making a deal with Canada to bring you guys all back to the States if you want to come. To get some ready trained pilots.
Yeah.
So it ended up, that's what they did. I got worried that this train was coming through, and anybody that wanted to apply to come back to the States would take it go in. So when I took my flight checks and everything there, why I left, no, it was all, they didn't want me.
Well, did you get assigned did you go as an instructor right away, or what was your first job?
No, and I didn't understand either why it was my first job, but I ended up at Long Beach, California, in the ferry division of ATC.
Oh.
That's where I ended up to start with, and I was there for, I must have been there about a year, I guess.
Ferrying aircraft from there to other places?
Just ferried. I got checked out in practically everything that we had. I'd maybe get up in the morning, go to operations, and have orders go down to Burbank and pick up P-38 number so-and-so, take it to Newark. And when I get, each night we're headed RON, send the telegram back so that they knew exactly where we were each night. And when I get to Newark, it'd be a telegram, either return to B, ROB, return to base, or proceed to Miami and pick up B-17 and take it to Seattle.
Really?
Yeah, and so sometimes I'd be gone for a week or two, just hopping from one place to another before I finally get back to
you checked out in a lot of planes and have done a lot of cross-country flying.
That was it. There was no, and I'd get orders for an airplane that I'd never seen her before. And I don't check out nor nothing. You learn to fly that airplane.
Kind of know that feeling.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, a lot of experience that way, and it fly. And finally, I ended up over in Reno, out of Long Beach, as an instrument instructor, and I spent just about a year there, 8 or 10 months anyway. And when I left out of Reno, they sent me to China or India, and flying the humps.
In this thing right here,
Yeah, that was one of them right there.
the B-17.
Yeah, the B-17 and the DC-3 or DC-4.
And my dad told me that all you had was a .45 caliber pistol,
That's all.
Really?
That's all we had, yeah.
flying over the Burma hump.
Yeah. Well, that's if we happened to go down, well, that was the only survival we had was a pistol.
Gee,
We just-
what were you just hauling cargo and stuff and supplies?
Our route trip was mostly for passenger service, the airline division of the ATC. But if we didn't have a load, they put anything in there. If you was making a trip, right, you could have a bunch of brooms, or you didn't matter what the cargo would be.
Pretty romantic stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we always went out loaded with something or other.
Huh.
And, it was one little incident. Speaking of the 45, when I got out of Atlanta, where I get out, I always take my 45 and lay it under the seat because it was uncomfortable anyway to have it on. And I went in, and then when I'd get out, I'd take it in there with me. And one day I forgot to. And I happened to realize I didn't have my gun, so I told my co-pilot with me, I said, go get my pistol. I said, I left it under the seat. He come back and said, it's gone, it's not there. But there's about 25 coolies out there unloading the airplanes. They were unloading it. So I went out and got over the head coolie and wrapped him, and he lined them all up. And I couldn't understand what all he was saying, but I could, he was giving them hell and so forth. Finally, one guy, he went over and grabbed him out of the line and took him over. And I was standing in the airplane. I got pictures of this too. I can find the damn thing. It shot him right there.
Shot him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dead?
Yeah, it ain't right.
Killed him?
I guess he killed him, but I didn't go out there and see. But they shot him. He crumbled down. And they drug him off.
Did you get your gun back?
Yeah, I had got my gun back, but he had the gun. See, that was the one that.
Gee.
Oh, life for those people was you'd have to live with them, be over there for a while to understand their. To them, life isn't. It's like a bird or an insect to us, you might say.
Yeah.
There's no respect for life at all.
Huh.
Yeah. A lot of incidents that way. We had all the coolies when they hired them to work along the runways, big building runways and so forth. If you hired the old man, the whole family come. And so this little kid got right over and it was an airplane one day, and so they made a settlement of $5 for him for the life of that kid. See. Well, then we had a rash of these kids getting killed.
So they paid $5 for an accident when the kid got killed, and
Yeah.
then they started getting killed a lot after that.
Okay.
Gosh.
Yeah, they get send their kids out to get
Their
them
own-
killed so they get that $5.
Their own parents. Huh.
Yeah, that's what they sort of like, or what they respect to like.
Well, when you got out of there, then where'd you head to?
Yeah, then when I left, one day I made more than the trip, so he was only supposed to fly the hump put so many hours in and so many trips and whatnot. And I was well over my quota. And I kept asking the CO to get me transferred back. And no, he wouldn't. I went in one day and he called me in. And he said, Harvey, I got orders for you here. I said, good, I got orders to go home, huh? And he said, oh no, not that. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we got to close it up, the hospital, I guess it was, up in the Assam Valley. We need to send you up there to take over to close up the base and so forth. I said, I'm not a ground man. No way. I'm not going to go up there and take over that base. And he said, well, you either do that or you have to get your discharge. He said, I said, you mean to say that I either take that position up there or you're going to discharge me? He said, yep, that's it. I said, well, I've been trying to get back to the States, and I guess that'll do it.
That's how you got out.
And that's how I got out. I got back. Came back, and then it was first I tried the orchard business, and unluckily I got off on the wrong foot on that. But I would go down to the airways. When National Air Service had a flight training school, you know, during the war they had these GIs that would, well, in fact they had a Air Force training school in Wenatchee at one time, I think, and that's where Ernie worked for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they had this put in a seaplane base up here so that they could extend their license aboard by getting a seaplane ready. So in other words, they could run the students through the regular wheel land base, and the seaplane, but they could run them through for another 20 hours or so.
More money.
So, yeah, that's what they did. So I went down and rented an airplane to go up to. I heard about Dumpy Lake and fishing and so forth, so I went down and rented an airplane and went up. Did that 3 or 4 times, and I came back one day from flying, and it was Kenneth Patton and Park Hill, the two that owned it, I think. And Park Hill was in the office when I came in, and he asked me, said, why don't you take on some students and you won't have to rent that airplane. You'll be able to use it without this gas. And so I did. I finally figured, well, I'd have to do it at my time. Whenever I had time to do it, scheduled. And that's how I got involved with Chelan Airways. And then it was flying for National Earth Service there with that. And that went on for about one summer there. Park Hill called me in and said, we're going to close it up. We're going to pull it out. There's not enough students to work with now to keep us, make it feasible for us. I said, well, what do you want for it? that's how it got started. So brought a couple of airplanes from them.
How much time we got going left? 'Cause I got one.
What's that camera? Don't.
Yeah, just look real close down inside, see if it reads out how much time.
Yeah.
'Cause I'll get
17:42.
Can you see okay?
92 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Okay, we got lots of time. I didn't know how much time that camera had. Go ahead, Hank. So you bought a business that was going to shut down anyway.
Yeah. So I had 4 or 5 students. There was a couple of them that they was in training with them, and then I picked up 3 or 4 more. But the thing that I was wanted was for the tourist business. That's the way I looked at it. Is for flying up lake and fishing, taking fishing trips. I was planning on making some more trips into Canada. It was
Was Gordon Stewart already up at Donkey then?
Yeah.
Was he?
Gordon was there before I started.
Okay, and then you could fly into Cub Lake too,
Yeah, yeah.
and Trapper.
Trapper Lake, Cub Lake.
And did you guys? Because I worked for Ernie for like about 7 years, but I forgot. So maybe you remember. Did Ernie plant, or did you plant that
Do you remember?
Trapper Lake full of fish, or
Yeah, we planted it.
you guys did? I mean, it didn't have any native fish in it, did it, or did it?
Well, I don't know whether they did have it or not, because they had this couple. I think Ernie is the one that ended up doing it. He was designated to drop them somewhere else. I know one load of cutthroats that was supposed to go into Cub Lake. I dropped it in Donkey Lake.
How come?
I couldn't get into Cub.
Tell anybody?
Yeah. So, sorry, fellas, I couldn't get into Cub, so I had to get rid of those fish. Yeah, well, that's crazy things.
Did you leave an airplane at Cub Lake one time?
Left one at Cub Lake.
Because I know that years ago, I'm 54, and I think I was probably 15 years old.
Yeah.
And there was an old airframe up there. And my dad said, that's Hank Harvey's airframe. I want to hear about that.
Well, that was one of these, a guy will make a mistake sometimes, but flying it won't excuse you. You can't make mistakes hardly in flying. And I made the mistake and admitted it. I went in, I was going in and out, and on a real clear, calm morning, calm day, I'd go in and I'd have about close to 800 feet, about higher than the lake. Because the lake, as you know, it drops off at the face of the lake for about 1,000 feet or so, just almost right off the lake.
Makes Prince Creek, doesn't it?
Yeah, it went into Prince Creek.
Yeah.
And but if it was weather was good, I'd hold about 300 feet and come around into the mouth of the canyon. And if everything was fine, I'd go ahead and sit down. And if there's any wind or anything, I'd go on up the canyon and land coming out instead of going in. And this morning, I was loaded pretty heavy, and I had beautiful morning. Just there wasn't a ripple in the air, and everything was great. So I held my altitude over the lip, beginning the lip, to make sure I didn't get a downdraft right as you cross that lip, because you will get a downdraft in there sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I always had a couple hundred feet. As soon as I got over the lip, then I'd put it in a side slip it so I could drop it quick. And when I brought it out of my side slip, the sun had just popped over the lake, and I looked in the mirror. Just that's 2 or 3 seconds, or seconds you might say.
Glassy water?
Glassy water. And all I saw was a mirror. There was nothing there. And so I tried to jerk it out and get straight, and bang, I hit the water a little too hard. Well, it jammed the strut. And it controls for the ailerons. It runs up that shoulder on your strut, you know. And it gave me slack. I didn't have any control.
Oh.
So there wasn't anything I could do but to open the door and shut the engine and tell it to hang on. We hit and bounced and hit, and it flipped over. So it wasn't. It just turned upside down on us. We got out all right. It was an old fellow that I can't think of his name, but he used to go up and down the lake in a rowboat, and he hiked into all the different lakes, and he loved to hike back in the hills and camp. I think Stoney or something like that was his name. But he just wasn't quite at the lake that morning when I went over. And he said, I heard you land. He said, I knew it wasn't your normal landing. He said, I knew something was wrong. So he hurried up, got up there while we were out there on the floats sitting, and I saw him walking along the shore. waved at us. I said, go shove that log or shove it out here toward us so we can get something. And he did. There's a log in there he could get. So we swam over there, got in the shore, all right. And while we was getting in, by the time we got in, he had a good fire going. Just kind of dried a little bit. And so I told, I had Don Brook and his wife, was two of them, so I told them, I said, I'm going to try to get the landing. I asked Stoney right at first, I said, Stoney, can you get down before the boat gets by? He said, well, he'd try. Well, after he'd left and I'd gotten kind of dried out, and realized I was able, I might say, I knocked some teeth out and busted a few ribs, was bleeding at the mouth, and I didn't know just what condition I was in, but I knew I was able to move. So I decided I wasn't going to give up on him getting down there in time, so I tried to get down myself. I decided I better get out of there because I knew Ernie would be, after a certain time, would be looking. See, so I said, well, I'd like to get to the dock before Ernie comes in to look for me if I can. And so I took off and got down where the French Creek meets this other little creek, it's a crossing. That's the first time I was sit down to rest. I better knock off a few in. I tried to get up and I was so doggone stiff I couldn't hardly get up. I rolled over against the rock and got back on my feet. I said, that's the last time I'll sit down. So I kept really pouring it on, and when I got down coming off the cliffs there next to the creek landing, Ernie went up lake, and so I put on a little more steam, and when he come back out, I was out on the end of the dock waving at him.
At Prince Creek?
At Prince Creek, yeah.
He saw you?
And yeah, he saw me and come in and landed, picked me up, took me up to Lucerne, and they took me up to the hospital up there again from Lucerne.
And then they flew back up and got the guys out, the passengers?
Well, they finally hiked out. They were about 2 hours behind me, but they did get out.
Huh.
Yeah. It was one of those, like I told him, say, Inspector, it can happen. The guy just...
glassy water,
Yeah.
I've been myself flown thinking I'm 20 feet off the water, and all of a sudden I'm on the water. I go, boy.
That's right. Yeah.
So then, how long? Let me see if the camera's still running, because we'll edit this stuff. I want to set a record. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, great. So then, did you just? How long did you have the airways, Hank?
4 or 5 years.
Oh really? What were you flying, like Piper Cubs or something?
I had Piper Cubs and Aeronautica Sedan and Seabees.
Now I know when I hear that word, I worked long enough for Ernie that he hated those Seabees. Is that right?
Well, it wasn't an airplane he really, but when I the first one I got, it had float or had wheels on it, and which then created when they designed the thing, the engineers made a mistake, or their weights and balances, and to got the wheels on it, they had to put, I think it was about 80 pounds of lead in the nose of it to balance, make the thing balance out. It's quite a hunk of lead. I don't remember the exact weight. So I got studying the specs on it one day, and now I got this weight here, I got this drag, I got this weight here. I'm going to take the wheels off and take that lead out of there and see what it does.
See what it does. Yeah. Okay.
And, I talked to the inspector about it. He came in one day and he said, oh, I said that. Yeah, I'll prove you've tried it if you want to experiment with it. It made an airplane out of it. It actually did. That could take 3 or 4 people and 2 people. It's just strictly a float plane, you know.
Yeah. How come you decided to get out of it?
Oh, I just kind of got tired of daylight till dark every day and holidays and everything. I just kind of got tired of it.
How'd you meet Ernie Gibson?
Well, Ernie he was working for the National Air Service when I bought it.
Oh, that's right. He was an instructor. Yeah.
Yeah, instructor for them. And I tried to hire him right then. I said, Ernie, I'll need some help. And I tried hiring him. Oh, he was going to go back to Portland. That's where he was from. That's where his mother lived, in Portland. He said, I'm going to go back and get out of there for a while. I said, okay. Well, I heard this Dick Kidd.
Oh yeah.
Dick.
I know. I remember him.
You remember Dick?
Yeah. Matter of fact, he became the publisher of Remote Control Modeler magazine.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. It was
Just died about 7 or 8 years ago or something.
It's been something like that.
Yeah, but I met, he came up every summer when I worked at the Airways and said hello.
Yeah.
And brought Ernie a model airplane. Ernie,
Yeah.
I think Dick worked on the thing for a year and Ernie looked at it for 5 seconds. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dick Kid, you hired him or?
Yeah, I did. He worked before me. And, Ernie, I told him when he left, I said, well, you got a job anytime you want it. Well, it was about a year, the next spring, I think, or summer. He was up here when he came up on vacation. And so I told Dick, I said, let's take Ernie up to Trapper. So I started doing it at Trapper after Ernie left. See? And let's take Ernie up to Trapper. So we took him up fishing one day and whatnot. He got a little enthused. But more. So when he left, I told him, Ernie, that job's still open. A month or 2, he called me. Said, Hank, I'm coming back. Good. So, and then he was back with me for about 6 months when Dick left. Then he went back to publishing that magazine she spoke about.
Yeah.
He was quite a model airplane builder. He built the flying models.
Yeah, he was pretty famous actually with his remote control.
Yeah.
I mean, very serious equipment that he had.
He brought that one big one up and had over the air base there. And we took it out and we were going to fly it as before the golf course, just about the time the golf course was in again. And made it up and was flying good. All of a sudden she quit, and so Ernie Dick started cussing and said, who's got their radios on?
Oh.
So Carl Brown, who got on his ham radio.
And messed it up.
Messed us up.
Hank's going to tell us a story that Marcy brought up.
Yeah.
I guess this is a nationwide famous story. So start over, Hank, because I think we missed the first part on the last part. It's a story about booze.
Start over about the booze.
Running booze up the lake in the airplane to Holden Village.
Want me to start at the beginning?
Yeah, because I think we missed it.
Well, back in those days, the liquor board, to buy a bottle of booze, you had to sign for it. And the Holden boys, the miners, couldn't get access to booze. They tried to get the liquor store to open a place up there, which they didn't want to do. And they finally came up with a letter to the local Pennington, the local store operator, and myself, authorizing us to sign for the miners if they wanted to legalize it for us to do that. So I took courtesy envelopes up to the rec hall that was fellows that they wanted to, if you went in and wanted a bottle of Stiill or whatnot, you wrote it on the envelope and put the money in the envelope and give it to the bus driver, and he brought it down to Lucerne, and we picked it up, brought it down, and we filled the order, and I'd go in and give it to the Pennington at the time, and we always, if there any change left, or always, well, it went back in the envelope. I never knew how much was in it, or we never, it was a courtesy thing. It wasn't didn't charge a penny for this at all. And, well, this one fellow, he decided he was going to do a little bootlegging. And he'd write false names on the envelopes and send them down. And I didn't know that he was doing it. He was that way he would accumulate a little for the holidays or the weekend or whatever. And yeah, somebody got, one of the miners got pissed off at him about, for some reason, and turned him in. So the prosecuting attorney, this lawyer, he tried to make a case out of this deal. What he did, he went up and picked up the bootlegger, caught him, and the stupid jackass was keeping a record of his operation.
Oh God!
Yeah, he had a notebook.
A crook writing things down.
Yeah. And so, and how he was getting it, well, he picked the bootlegger up, and he picked up the bus driver. It was the connections between Lucerne and Holden, and he had a one sword out for Ernie and Dick and I. Three of them. Yeah, bootlegging. And he, Monofletta was deputy sheriff at that time.
Yeah, I remember.
Very good friend of mine. And I did a lot of work for the police departments, flies up lake and things, you know. We were good friends. Well, Mona came out and told me, he said, Hank said, I've got warrants here for you and Ernie and Dick, and I've got instructions not to serve them until after 5 o'clock. This was on a Saturday. And I said, well, golly, what's the deal on it? And he said, that's all I know. He said, I was told not to serve these until after 5 o'clock. And he said, I think it's for a bootlegging charge or something like that. Well, this connection deal once. So anyway, I called Dick Jeffries, which was a good client of mine. I took him flying a lot. And Dick said, well, don't leave Chelan until I hear back from me. And so he got a hold of the judge, and and they said, well, there was no bonds set. Dick said, yes, there will be too. So he knew enough that the guy had to, they couldn't put us in without setting a bond. The way he did it. Well, he was trying to put us in after the bags closed, and he wanted to close me down my operations, what he was trying to do. See? He wanted to put us in jail.
So you couldn't bail out?
Yeah, and to come out in the paper and then the big headlines. And I've got to stop in the Daily World sometime and see if I can get a copy of that.
Really?
Go back and copy that. Big headlines. Aero bootlegging ring broke. And it went out on Associated Press.
Really?
Ernie's mother called up and said, what's going on? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You said, Marcy said you had family from back east that called you?
Yeah, I was getting called everywhere on it. But,
So it was nationwide story.
Yeah, it was. It's an Associated Press. Well, we stalled around then, and finally Dick called back and said, come on down, you guys. Fleta came over and picked us up. It's $1,500, $500 a piece what we'd have. And where in the hell am I going to get that much money tonight? Saturday night. I stopped into Don Mathers, had a motel down there, a hotel at lower, just at the end of the bridge there, basic helmets. Good friend and so forth. I thought, well, maybe Don knows where. So I told him what was going on. So Don, I've got to see if I work and I get $1,500 check cash. And he said, oh, wait a minute. And he went to the back room, and a few minutes later he came back, sat there and counted out $1,500. And I said, I don't have a check with me now. What? He said, don't check nothing. He said, you just go down there and tell them where to shove it or something like that. So we did. Well, when Mona took us in, well, the bailiff said, empty your pockets. And I said, no, I'm not emptying my pockets. He said, yes, you got to empty your pockets. And he was getting a little belligerent about it. And Mona finally stepped up and said, well, now, you must not be communicating because they do have bail set now. But that thing was all so cut and dried. They knew I was coming. They had this thing just set up,
Ready
trying
throw
to
you
get us
in jail.
locked up in jail that night. That's what they tried to do.
But they didn't.
No, they couldn't do it. See, we had a whip. So the bailiff, he got up and left the room, and a few minutes later he come back with $1,500. So then we went downtown and had dinner on the sheriff's department.
They finally dropped the charges, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, it was we tried today just to get, the guy was trying, he was running for some position, or he wanted some higher up position. And he's trying to make a name for himself, the prosecuting attorney was. And he thought it was big news, big deal, and all that.
Well, it did turn out to be pretty big news.
Yeah. But we finally went to court on it. Well, Dick Jeffers and Hughes were my attorneys. And the word got out from the to the miners and whatnot. They got word that the judge had been talking to him down there, and one thing and another, that it was kind of a cut and dried case. The judge said he might as well give up. He's DSA. In other words, he had it set before he went to trial.
Yeah.
And so they, Hughes and Jeffers, they demanded a different judge. They call it a probate judge. Anyways, you can ask for a different judge on cases of this kind, which they did, and got this. He was an Indian from Omak, wonderful guy, just excellent. Yeah. And so they, we ended up going to trial in his courtroom that day. The miners had got the bootlegger that was they had in jail down there, and told him if he qualified against Ernie and I or said anything, that he was a dead man. You know that. And, because they were really mad. They couldn't get any booze anymore.
He probably didn't go back to Holden, did he?
No, I don't know whatever happened to that guy. He ended up with so much time to serve. Yeah. But we went to court on it then. The judge, they put this guy on trial. Wanted to know if, one of the things the judge said to ask, he pointed at me and at Ernie and said, "Do you know those two guys there?" And he kind of sat there, I've seen them before. So we knew that the miner had gotten to him. And like that. And, so the prosecutor brought these records up, and started, they said, the judge said, well, how you got proof of this and so forth. He said, well, I've got these records here and so forth. The judge looked at him, where'd you get those records? He said, I just went up and got about out of the liquor store. I mean, he just pointed his finger at him. said, you committed the worst crime, and what's the charge of this class for?
Yeah.
Well, you can remember right then, boy, that really hit it. Everything that the prosecutor would bring up, trying to case it or whatnot, the judge would have some knock him right down. We didn't. So it's finally he rested his case. He said, well, the judge, we asked for a recess in just before, and we talked about it. He hadn't proved anything. He couldn't prove whether who signed when or what, or he had no proof of those records, or shouldn't have had the records, and it was just really you could tell that the guy was trying to really had a case through. It was just well, and the judge really wrote it down.
Huh.
So we just said, well, he hadn't proved anything, so we're just going to rest the case, just like set for this. So we went back in, and the judge asked us what we did, so we rested. We don't contest, so whatever they wanted, however they rewarded it. And so they turned it over to the jury. So we went down to one of the restaurants to get something to eat and have a drink while we were waiting on the verdict. And about an hour while they called us and said, come on back. And not guilty.
Not that time.
Not that time. But all the time during in the court proceedings there, so I tried to get the liquor board. That was another thing that happened. Don Roten had taken over the liquor store within. And when this happened, Don got scared and he took mailed that letter back to Olympia instead of keeping it for me.
Oh.
And so I didn't have that dang letter. And he admitted that he did it, but he wouldn't do it, anything. So I had witnesses, or the fact that letter was available, or was because of, it was really an issue to Pennington. So Pennington knew it. And I called Les, and he said, yes, I had the letter and so forth.
Huh.
I said, well, would you come over and verify, swear that was there? And he said, it would. Well, and he was at court that day. He was there. But, and the guy from the liquor board was there. He didn't say it. I happened to just luckily recognize him because I'd seen him once before on something else that somebody had told me about it. And anyway, either me or the lawyer recognized that this guy was from the liquor board. But he didn't come and introduce himself or say who he was. He was just one of the spectators, you might say. I think that if it, and we said too, if it comes to the last thing, we're going to subpoena him. We're going to grab him on right away if it comes down to that point.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to.
Huh. What you got there?
Oh, that's just.
Let me see.
That's
just. Did you ever find that picture, Marcy? Not?
Which picture is that?
I remember when I was a kid, sitting in your living room looking at a picture of you in your uniform when you were flying this B-17. You had your hat tipped off to one side and like the rest of them.
Yeah, well, it could be in there.
What is this here?
That's just a scrapbook.
Oh, I see.
It's just a scrapbook.
Man.
A lot of different. There's pictures in there. Might be in there.
Did you show them those two pictures of the plane? This is one, but that's not what you're looking for.
Oh, that's a good one.
I know it's not. I know it's not. And so much of our stuff is packed away. I'm not sure where.
Yeah, of course. Got so doggone many pictures and crap and stuff.
That is a good one. Maybe I can get this thing to focus in. This thing, computers, I just can fix this right up.
Got your butt in the camera.
Oh, Oh, no, I don't. Jimmy's.
Wow.
That's almost 38 there.
I'm trying to, because there are some. That's his home in Virginia.
That's an old homestead.
And there are
Oh man.
There are. Let's see, here's.
Look
There
at
are some
Lee here.
pictures in here. Yeah.
So you can take those and put them on the computer
These are, oh, okay.
and burn them, and then just make it makes
Oh,
beautiful
okay.
pictures of them. Did you fly that P-40 Warhawk, Hank?
Yeah,
I think I saw it in there. Maybe it was a P-51B or something.
yeah. I had to get my own number, numbers and all the different ones now.
Nice, you look nice in a grass skirt there, Henry.
Yeah,
Jeez.
no, that's
You can't see this on the camera, but there's Hank with a grass skirt on and a lei, and that's it. Well, no, he's got 2 leis around his ankles too.
yeah.
What the hell's that?
That was an outfit I brought back from Hawaii when I was down.
Well, it fits.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get somebody to burn that off on the computer. We'll get that out there somehow. Wow, that's an old. Hank, is that a P-51 or a P-40?
It's 51.
Like a B model or something?
Yeah. I think it's 51. 240.
So you're flying with other guys right there?
Yeah.
How come when we're flying we all want to take pictures of other guys flying beside us? I do it too.
Well, we take off and you.
It's like that old joke says, how do you find out at a cocktail party which guy's a pilot? And then the answer is just wait long enough, he'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Gosh, those are some good ones.
Yeah, it's
So you just got in any airplane and, oh, there's your Lightning, P-38, your favorite airplane.
yeah, there's a. Okay, there's one picture somewhere of me standing up on it.
Well, God, how'd you learn to navigate so well? I mean, so you just said whatever they gave you, like we said, that P-40 right there is the most powerful heaviest single engine airplane ever made. You just got in it with no training and took off.
Yeah, just that.
How'd you learn how to navigate? Hopefully not the same way.
Well, when I went
Well, you went to school, didn't you?
Yeah, college.
That's
I
right.
learned navigating. Yeah.
There's the B-17, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Henry. Is that your girlfriend? Before you met Bernice?
Yeah, that's my girlfriend.
There's a naked somebody from Africa, I would imagine.
North Africa.
You were in North Africa?
Yeah. I was in
Was this a date or just happened to be walking by?
Just happened to be walking by. Yeah.
That looks like a Connie.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it is. Concord.
Yeah, Lockheed Constellation.
Yeah.
You've had quite a career flying, haven't you, Hank?
Yes,
You like sitting in airplanes still? I mean, I can't get enough of it. Don't you like it?
yeah.
Sure feels at home, doesn't it? It seems to me that no matter what's going on that day, that the minute you leave the ground, I forget everything.
It's a different world.
You just forget everything.
Yeah.
There's your favorite one again, P-38 Lightning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh, from Burbank, California.
Yeah.
Gosh. That's a DC-3 or something?
That is, yeah. That's a DC-3. That's the old workhorse.
Yeah. B-25?
B-25 Liberator. This 25, and that's at the 24, the Liberator. Liberator, they called it. It's like the. There's two different versions: the Navy version and the Army version of it. One was the B-24, and the other one they called it the Liberator. The Navy version of it.
Flying boxcar?
Yeah.
I think Marvin Smith, he was my neighbor for years, that had Smith Electric. He was a bombardier in one of these.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. Wow, picture Waikiki Beach before there was any hotels.
Yeah.
So you were stationed in Hawaii?
No, I
Just got a car postcard?
Took B-24 down to Australia and stopped in Hawaii.
You flew a B-24 from California to Australia?
Yeah.
God.
That's why I was in the Furry Division.
You really liked that, didn't you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, Hank, thanks a lot. I look at
Yeah,
these,
yeah.
and thanks for taking me hunting all those years.
Yeah, my pleasure. I enjoyed taking you guys out.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't remember much getting away from us. I remember my dad
Yeah.
decided he had to go to the bathroom one time, and right out from underneath his rear end, this big chucker, we were waiting for Dad to get done, and this great big pheasant jumped up. Right out from the bush he was squatting in.
Yeah.
And you and Jack Blair and me and Curt and Doug all shot the thing, and every one of us missed him.
Yeah.
And I think Dad was shooting at him with his pants pulled down. And every one of us missed him. I remember that like it was yesterday. Because we were up in Chucker country, we didn't figure on seeing a pheasant up there.
Yeah.
But we did have a lot of fun riding in the back of that old carpet cleaning van.
Good old days. You got it.
Sitting in the back of that freezing cold carpet cleaning van and laying in a cold duck blind for a half a day. It was pretty fun. Sure appreciate it. Huh. Some ways I kind of think it was a lot better than it is now. I really do.
I know it was.
They can watch TV and play on computers, but they can't
Yeah.
go out and do what we did. We're all pretty, we could all do quite a bit, and it's guys like you that took the time to teach us, so I thank you. And I thank you for the interview. That's why I came out, Hank. It means a lot to me. It does. Really.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're an honest man, because Dad told me you went to put some carpet in the house at Dad's house one time, and you pulled back the old carpet. There was an envelope, and you walked out and you said, "Evan, there's $500 in an envelope hidden underneath the carpet." And he said, "That's Mertz. Put it back and just lay the carpet over it, Hank." It's probably still there.
More likely than-
But we had one of those neighborhoods where there was probably 30 kids, and you guys made us mow the lawn and do paint. We were always painting houses or stealing somebody's dog or stealing somebody's Easter eggs or something.
Throwing golf ball or baseballs through my windows.
I don't ever remember getting in trouble though. I never remember anybody getting mad at us.
Not really. That's that 24 I took to Australia, right there.
Really?
Yeah. I recognized some of the pictures with it. That's the one I flew to Australia.
Wow. Well, you had a lot of good adventures. There you are, Henry. That's the one you were looking at for. Standing on the P-38 Lightning.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
That's a nice picture.
Yeah, that's it, standing on the seat. I knew there was one in there somewhere.
I'm going to hold that one up in front of a little movie camera and try to hold it still. Maybe we can Maybe we can get a picture off the computer. That's a good one here. That's Hank's favorite plane right there. He's P-38. There we go. What year do you suppose that is, Hank?
What year?
Yeah, just about what year?
Well, I've been, when was Pearl Harbor? What year was Pearl
1941.
Harbor? 41. You had been 43 or 44.
Huh.
Or 43, I'd say.
And you just jumped in that one too and learned how to fly it by yourself.
Yeah. I just got orders to go out and...
Sure played okay.
Yeah. Sure playing and go with it.
All right. Well, shut this thing off, Hank.
Yeah.
All right, Hank, here we go. Now, this is Henry Harvey with his hula skirt on. You got it at Christmas Island, you say? Here, we're looking at his whole album here.
Yeah.
I'll try to zoom in on this. You're quite a handsome girl, if you can see it. He's got his hula skirt on and he's got a date, evidently.
Yeah, that's
There you go. Let's turn her back to that first page, Hank, and I'll film that picture of you. By just when you're with your. There we go. All right, Hank. There you go. There's Hank when he's in the service, around Pearl Harbor time, or before that a little bit. There we go.
yeah. What's left of him?
What's left of it?
Yeah. Wings.
Oh yeah.
RCAF.
There's this Canadian that he was talking about earlier. This is his scrapbook. He flew actually all over the world. Quite a story. All right, Henry, we're done. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just finished the interview with Hank, and I'll tell you, that was a lot of fun. When I was a little kid, we lived in the same neighborhood that the Harveys did, and it's just one of those things that we're all real true locals and just had a blast. Lots of good memories, and I took Hank for the airplane ride simply because I wanted to. It's a kind of an aviator thing. That man has so much experience to get into an airplane that he's never flown and to ferry it from California to Hawaii, fill it up, and on over to Japan or wherever he said he went. I can't even remember right now, but it was a lot of fun. Oh, he went to Australia on that trip. But anyway, getting in, some of you guys that know aviation, getting in a P-40 or a P-51 or a P-38 Lightning, which he said was his favorite airplane, or a B-17 bomber or a B-25 bomber. Never even been in it in his life. Just read the instructions, picked up his orders, and took off. That's amazing. And the flights he made at Chelan Airways were something else, and some of the stories. And then he took us hunting all the time. You'd walk down the street and it'd be Hank gonna take us hunting. And you always came home with a bag of birds, I'll tell you that. And when we went by ourselves, we just came home with an empty box of shells. So it was a real fun thing to do that with Hank, and I appreciate his family letting me do that. It's funny because you don't have to be the year 2007 politically correct. It was just a blast to take a step back, and those are probably not as politically correct times, but they were better times. And as I was leaving and packing up my little camera and the couple little airplanes that Henry signed for me, I'll be damned if he isn't standing out there smoking a cigarette. So he's a tough guy. He's made out of the, you know, like, I guess the right stuff, and he's going to be that way until the last day. It's just incredible the kind of a man that he is and the gentleman that he is. Don't ever remember Hank ever getting mad at anybody. He always did the right thing and took the time for us kids and taught us a lot, showed us a lot of adventures, and just someday I'd like to grow up to be as good as him. I'll tell you that. It was a true privilege, and I really didn't want to make anything about myself on here, but I did want to take the time after doing it to say what a privilege it is and was to do this and to do that flight with Hank. A guy with so many hours flying, that was a true honor for me to get to take him flying, and I enjoyed it. So thanks, Henry, and I'll bet you we do it again. All right, thank you again.